Grayson walked through the cold, metallic streets of the outer space station. His boots echoed on the floor as he passed closed shops and blinking neon signs. The lights were dim, the air was thin, and the people kept their heads down. Nobody talked much in this part of the station. Nobody cared. Grayson was tired. His body hurt, and his stomach growled. He had only 1 credit left, and he wasn't sure what to do with it. Food? A drink? A warm place to sleep? He didn't know. All he knew was that life had been harder every year, and now, at his age, he was just trying to survive. As he turned the corner near the old cargo bay, he saw something strange. A figure was lying on the ground, curled up near a vent that blew cold air. It wasn't human. The skin was pale blue, and the body was thin, shaking badly from the cold. An alien, female maybe. Wrapped in torn clothes and barely alive, others walked past her without even looking. A merchant shook his head and whispered, "Another one." A young man laughed and said, "Should have stayed on her planet." But Grayson stopped. He looked at her. She was breathing, but slowly. Her lips were turning purple and her eyes were closed. She would die soon if nobody helped her. Grayson felt his fingers touch the last credit chip in his pocket. He could still walk away. It wasn't his problem. Something deep inside him said no. Something quiet, but strong. He turned and walked to the nearest vending machine. He pressed the button for an emergency thermal blanket. The screen asked for payment. He sighed and pushed the chip in. Just like that, it was gone, his last credit. Grayson walked back to the alien woman and gently placed the blanket over her. She flinched, her body reacting to the sudden warmth. Then her eyes opened, just a little. They were golden and glowing. She didn't say anything. She just stared at him. A silent moment passed between them. "It's all right," Grayson said softly. "You're going to be okay." He helped her sit up. She was light, almost weightless. She tried to stand, but her legs were too weak without a word. Grayson lifted her carefully and carried her through the dark alleys of the station. His room wasn't much, just a small metal box in the workers' quarters. But it was warm, and it had a bed. He laid her down and wrapped her tighter in the blanket. She looked around the room slowly, confused but calm. Grayson brought her a cup of warm water from the purifier. She drank it with shaking hands. "Don't worry," he said again. "You're safe here." The alien woman pointed to herself and then said very slowly, "Sarah." Grayson nodded. "Nice to meet you, Sarah." She smiled faintly before closing her eyes. Her body relaxed for the first time. Grayson sat in his old chair across from the bed and watched her sleep. The station outside was still cold, still dark, but inside it felt a little warmer. He didn't know who she was or where she came from. He didn't know what would happen tomorrow, but for tonight, he had done something right. He fell asleep. In the chair, listening to the quiet hum of the heater, and in the silence, something strange happened. Sarah's eyes opened, glowing softly in the dark. She sat up slowly and looked at Grayson. Still sleeping, she reached out her hand and placed 2 fingers gently on his forehead. A whisper filled the room, not in English, not in any human language, just a sound, soft and ancient. And then she closed her eyes again, this time with peace, as if she had found something she thought was lost. As if this small act of kindness had changed everything, Grayson slept on. Unaware, outside the station continued its endless rotation, but something had shifted. Something had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. Grayson was dreaming. But the dream didn't feel like a dream. It felt real. Too real. He stood in a burning sky, looking up at 2 moons torn in half. Ships fell from the clouds like dying birds. Screams echoed, but they weren't human. In the middle of it all stood Sarah, her golden eyes glowing brighter than fire. She was speaking, but not with her mouth. The words entered Grayson's head like soft lightning. He didn't understand the language, but he felt it. Loss, pain, fear, hope. She reached for him through the flames, and just before her hand touched his, he woke up, gasping. Grayson sat in his chair, heart pounding, face covered in sweat. The heater was humming gently, and the room was quiet. But Sarah was awake, sitting up in his bed, watching him. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Calm and steady, she tilted her head slightly as if she already knew what he had seen. That wasn't a normal dream. Grayson whispered. Sierra said nothing, but her gaze answered for her. She raised her hand and gently tapped the side of her head. Then she pointed to him. Grayson frowned. You were inside my mind? She nodded slowly, then spoke a single word, clear and soft. Memory. Grayson leaned back, still confused. He had heard of alien telepaths, but only in rumors. This was real, too real. How much can you see? He asked. Sarah paused, then replied in broken English. Only what you feel. He didn't know whether to be afraid or amazed. This woman, this alien, shared a piece of her soul with him, and now she was learning fast by the next day. She was speaking in full sentences, though slowly she told him her name, her age. Her homeworld Leorin, a planet with crystal forests and sky rivers, now reduced to ash. Her voice trembled as she said, Leorin is gone. Grayson asked, who did it? She hesitated, then said, hunters, strong ones, rich, take what they want. She looked down at her hands. Now, they want me. Grayson didn't press her, but he knew what she meant. She wasn't just a refugee. She was running from someone powerful. Later that night, as Grayson cooked a small meal from his last food rations, a red light blinked on his wall screen, wiped his hands and walked over to check. It was a bounty notice fresh. High alert, wide range. His heart stopped. The face on the poster was Sierra. Her photo looked colder, more threatening than she did now. The bounty price was massive, more than Grayson had ever seen in one place. And below it, a warning, dangerous, may possess classified tech, approach. With caution, he slowly turned toward her. Sierra was still sitting on the bed, hugging the blanket he gave her. Her eyes looked sad, not dangerous. She wasn't a weapon. She was a survivor. Grayson switched off the screen. He said nothing, and neither did she. But he knew she had seen it. She always seemed to know what. He knew that night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking, why was she really here? Why were they hunting her? And most of all, why did he care so much? She had come into his life without warning, a frozen, dying stranger. But now she was something more. She had shared her memories with him. She had shown him her fear, her world, her loss in return. She had asked for nothing, just warmth, just safety. The station was still cold. The metal walls still groaned. But in that small room, something warm was growing. Not love, not yet, but trust. Grayson looked at the sleeping alien woman on his bed and whispered to himself, I don't know what you're running from, Sierra, but if they want to get to you, they'll have to go through me first, outside. Hidden in the dark corners of the station, eyes watched. A bounty hunter had landed 2 hours ago, and he had already started asking questions. The bounty hunter didn't knock. He didn't ask. He simply stood outside Grayson's room, still as a shadow. A helmet covered his face, and a scanner buzzed faintly in his hand. He was patient. He knew the scent of fugitives in this one. She was close. Inside, Sierra sat on the floor, eyes closed, hands resting on her knees. She wasn't sleeping. She was listening to the walls, the floors, the humming air. No, and she felt it. Danger, near and sharp. Grayson paced the room, trying to stay calm. The bounty notice hadn't gone away. It had spread screens across the station, now showed her face. He had erased it from his own system, but it wasn't enough. Tell me everything, he said suddenly. Sierra opened her eyes. He crouched down beside her. No more half-words. Or dream messages. If I'm risking my life for you, I need the truth. Sierra nodded slowly. Then she raised her hand and touched his forehead. Again, the visions came, not in dreams. This time he was wide awake, but his body froze, and his mind fell. He saw Leorin, her homeworld. Sky cities floating above rivers of light, children with glowing skin. Families gathered around crystal fires, then flames, explosions, and screams. Ships arrived without warning, not alien, human. Grayson's heart twisted. The humans didn't. Speak, they took. Mind harvested. The Liorns tried to fight back, but they had no weapons. Only minds and hope. In the chaos, one group escaped, scientists, elders, and Sira. They carried a memory crystal. It held the entire history of Liorn, its culture, knowledge, language, all of it, but the humans noticed. And they wanted it, Grayson. Came back to his senses, breathing hard, he fell against the wall, stunned. "You're not just a fugitive," he whispered. "You're the last of your kind," Sira nodded. She pulled a small, glowing crystal from under her blanket and held it out. "This is Liorn," she said softly. "If I die, it dies too." Grayson stared at the crystal, then at her. "How many are left?" She shook her head. "Don't know. Maybe none." He felt a chill crawl down his spine. This wasn't just a rescue. Anymore, he wasn't just hiding a stranger, he was protecting a legacy, a whole civilization, and the hunters chasing her. They weren't just after money, they were after silence. Suddenly, 3 knocks. Heavy and cold, Grayson froze. Sira's body tensed like a wire. He walked slowly to the door panel and peeked at the screen. A man in black armor stood outside. Silent and still, no name, no eye, just the mark of a licensed tracker. He pressed the button, and a deep voice crackled through. "Grayson Hale, we have reports of a wanted fugitive in your section." "Open the door." Grayson looked at Sira, then at the crystal in her hands. She shook her head slowly. "He won't stop," she whispered. "Even if you give me up." Grayson turned back to the panel. "Wrong room," he said. Then he shut off the screen. A long silence. Then boom. The door shook with a powerful hit. Again boom. Metal bent. And cracked. One more hit, and it would break. Grayson grabbed Sira's hand. "Come on, we have to run." But before they could move, Sira stopped him. She placed 2 fingers on his chest. Her eyes flared with golden light. Everything went silent. The air froze. The sound of the banging stopped. Even the light outside the window stood still. Grayson looked around, shocked. Time itself had paused. Sira's voice echoed in his mind. Only for a moment, her body trembled with the effort. "I can slow time, not stop it. Then let's go," Grayson said, grabbing a small backpack. He stuffed food, water, and tools inside. Sira tucked the crystal under her jacket. Together, they slipped out the back. Time began to move again the moment the door broke open. The bounty hunter rushed inside but found nothing. Only a warm bed and a humming heater down below in the maintenance tunnels. Grayson and Sira moved fast. No more waiting, no more hiding. It was time for answers. It was time to fight back. The tunnels beneath the space station had no names. Only numbers. Grayson and Sira ran through Tunnel 1 to B. Breath sharp in the cold air. Steam hissed from broken pipes. Dripping water echoed like footsteps. But it wasn't footsteps. Something was following them. Sira gripped the crystal tight against her chest. Grayson gripped a metal rod, the only weapon he had. Their boots slipped on the wet steel floor, but they kept moving. This place was made for machines, not for people. And yet, this was the only place left to hide. Suddenly, Sira stopped. Her body stiffened. Her breathing changed. Grayson turned back, confused. "What's wrong?" He whispered. She didn't answer. Her eyes were wide, staring into the dark ahead. And then she collapsed. Grayson caught her just before she hit the ground. "Sira, hey, stay with me." But she was burning hot, sweating, shaking. The crystal glowed brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. "She's overheating," he muttered. But he didn't understand why. Then he remembered her words. "I can slow time, but it drains me." She had used her power too long, too deep, too far. He carried her into an old maintenance room and locked the door. Behind him, inside, was only a broken chair, an old vent, and silence. He laid her down and placed the crystal beside her. Her lips moved, whispering in her alien tongue. Then, suddenly he heard a voice in his mind again, not Sira's voice. This time, a deeper one, ancient, it said. protector of the flame. Do you accept? Grayson gasped. What? Who's there? The crystal shimmered. Sierra's body trembled. Then he saw it not with eyes, but with memory. She wasn't born with this power. It was given, passed down, to protect the memory of her people. But the power came with a cost, too much use. And the bearer would die? No, not like this, Grayson whispered. He placed both hands on the crystal. I accept, whatever it is. Just help her. The crystal flashed, and for a brief second, Grayson's mind exploded with visions. He saw millions of Leorans dancing, building, laughing, crying. He felt their thoughts, their history, and then he felt their death. It almost broke him, but he held on. When he opened his eyes, Sierra was breathing normally, her body cooler, calm. She looked up at him, confused. You touched it. Grayson nodded slowly. It asked. I answered, her eyes filled with fear. No one touches the crystal. It is sacred. It binds to the soul. Grayson felt no pain, only a quiet fire inside his chest, a strange warmth, as if the memories were no longer just hers. Now, they were his too. Suddenly, boom, the metal door shook. They had been found again. Grayson stood, gripping the metal rod tighter. But this time, something felt different. He wasn't just a tired old mechanic. Anymore, he felt stronger, faster, clearer. The door burst open, and two bounty hunters stepped in. One aimed a shock rifle. Give us the girl, he barked, or we take both of you. Grayson didn't move. He looked at Sirachet, nodded. She trusted him now. Completely. Grayson raised his hand. Not the one holding the rod, the other, and light pulsed from his palm. The hunters screamed, blinded. Sierra stood behind him, her hands raised too. Together, they formed a wave of golden energy. It wasn't an attack. It was a memory burst, a flood of thoughts, feelings, pain, love so much love it hurt. The bounty hunters fell to their knees, shaking, overwhelmed. They weren't dead. But they would never forget what they felt. They crawled out of the room, broken. Sierra dropped to the floor. Exhausted, Grayson fell beside her, laughing through the pain. What was that? She looked at him, surprised. You used it? He nodded. It used me too. For a long moment, they just sat there. No more running, no more fear, just silence. Grayson looked at her and said, I'm not just protecting you now. I'm protecting all of them, outside. Bounty network glitched. A new face was added to the wanted list. Grayson Hale, alive, enhanced, extremely dangerous. The station went dark. Not a full blackout, just enough to send a message. The lights dimmed, the hum of power slowed, and the air felt colder. Someone had flipped the switch. Not to kill, but to watch. Grayson stood in the shadows of the maintenance tunnel, holding Sierra close. She could barely walk. Her strength was almost gone. The memory crystal pulsed faintly. Weaker than before, it was dying, just like her. He knew they were out of time. They needed help. They needed someone who could save what was left. There's one person, Grayson muttered. He looked at the small terminal in his hand. A name flickered on screen. Avo, hacker, smuggler, criminal genius, and once a friend. Can we trust him? Sierra whispered. Grayson sighed. No, but he owes me. They made their way to Dock 7. Using old passageways only workers knew when they arrived, Ivo was already waiting, tall, lean, with glowing cybernetic eyes and fingers that never stopped moving. Well, Ivo said with a grin. If it isn't the legend of the Rust Sector, Grayson didn't smile. This is serious. I need your tech, your tools, and your silence. Ivo noticed Sire, her pale skin, her glowing eyes, the crystal. Oh, he said, his tone shifting. You brought her here. You're crazier than I thought. Grayson explained everything quick, quiet, raw. Ivo listened, then nodded slowly. I can try to pull data from the crystal, he said, but it's failing fast. It needs energy, memory-stable code, maybe even organic sync. Sierra lay on the bench beside him, barely conscious. Grayson reached into his jacket and pulled out a small chip, My own memory backup, he said. Use it. Overwrite it if you have to. Ivo blinked. Surprised? You sure? This'll wipe everything you are. Grayson nodded. She used her life to protect this. Now it's my turn. As Ivo worked, wires connected, lights blinked. And the room filled with a soft humming sound. Sierra's body twitched, reacting. To the sync process, Grayson held her hand tightly, and then the lights flashed red. An alarm screamed. Ivo cursed. They found us. Tracker bots inbound. Grayson stood, grabbed his tool belt and metal rod. Keep working, he told Ivo. I'll buy you time. He stepped outside the dock, facing the hallway alone. 10 mechanical hunters crawled toward him, red eyes glowing. Grayson took a breath, closed his eyes, and reached inside himself. The memory, the power. The fire writ was all still there. He opened his hand. A golden wave exploded forward. Not fire, not light memory, raw and burning. The machines froze. Sensors flooded with emotion. One by one, they collapsed. But not before one of them fired a shot straight into Grayson's chest. He fell to the ground, coughing, pain-like. Fire in his lungs. But he didn't scream. He just smiled. Because inside the dock, the crystal was glowing again. Ivo completed the download. Eyes wide, I've got it, he shouted. I saved the core memories. Not all of them, but enough. Sierra woke up slowly. Her strength partially restored, she saw Grayson bleeding on the floor and cried out, No, not you. She crawled to his side, hands glowing faintly. She placed them on his wound. A soft light passed between them, some of her energy. What little she had left went into him. Grayson gasped. He was alive, barely. You should have let me die, he whispered. Sierra shook her head. You saved my people, now I save you. Outside, more ships were landing. The real hunters were coming now. Bigger, faster, human. Grayson looked at Sierra, then at Ivo. We can't run forever, said they'll never stop. Ivo handed him a small transmitter. It's old, but powerful. If you plug this into the station's main comms tower, you can send the memory archive across the galaxy. Sierra looked up, but that will expose you. They'll come for you harder, Grayson. Held the device tightly. I don't care. It's not just about us anymore. He looked at the stars beyond the dock doors. I've made my decision, and with that, he walked into the firelight. One man, one message, carrying the last truth of a lost world. Asterisk, the storm began before he reached the tower. Not wind, not rain metal. Hunter drones swarmed the station's skies, blocking every exit, scanning every breath. They didn't speak. They didn't warn. They just hunted. Grayson moved through the chaos like a ghost. Every breath felt heavier, every step louder. His ribs still ached from the last fight, but he didn't stop. Not now. He held the transmitter tight in his hand. The last hope. The last voice of a dead world. Back at Dock 7, Sierra lay weak again. Her gift to Grayson had cost her dearly. The crystal's power was spent, and her own life force flickered like a dying flame. Ivo, she whispered, her voice almost gone. He's going to die. Ivo looked out the small window toward the towers in the distance. Yeah, he muttered. He probably is. Then he turned. His cyber eyes flashing blue. But maybe he won't if we do something stupid? Sierra forced herself to sit up. Her legs trembled, but her eyes sharpened. She reached for the crystal. Still warm from the data transfer, a tiny spark remained. Inside, hidden deep, I gave him my strength. She said, now I take it back. Her body arched as she held the crystal tight. Pain shot through her bones, but she didn't let go. The last fragments of her people, their memories, their fear, it flowed back into her. And when she opened her eyes, they blazed with gold. Ivo, she said, her voice steady now. Take me to him. Grayson reached the comms tower under heavy fire. Blaster bolts lit the air around him, turning metal walls into burning shrapnel. He ran, ducked, rolled like a soldier, but he was no soldier, just a mechanic with nothing left to lose. He slammed the transmitter into the main port. The screen lit up. Authorization required. Blinked. Grayson grinned through the pain. I don't have one, he said. Here's mine. And he pressed his blood-covered hand to the Reader, the machine scanned, hesitated, then accepted. The message began to broadcast. Sierra's people, their faces, voices. Dreams rushed through the wires into the stars, but the hunters were already inside. Grayson turned around and saw 3 armored men aiming at him. How sudden moves, one said. Grayson raised his hands. Message is already gone, said smiling. Too late, a rifle charged. A trigger clicked, then the wall exploded. Sierra stepped through the fire like a storm-given form. Her golden light burned away the smoke. The hunters screamed and fell back. She didn't touch them. She showed them every death on her planet, every child buried in ash, every memory they had tried to erase. They dropped their weapons and ran. Their minds shattered by grief they didn't own. Grayson fell to one knee. Sierra, he whispered, you're... She dropped beside him and caught his shoulders. I'm here, she said. You didn't die, neither did you. He replied, smiling weakly. The broadcast finished. Galactic networks lit up with data from a dead world. People watched, listened, wept. The truth could not be buried anymore. Sierra reached into her cloak and pulled the crystal from her chest. It was empty now, but it didn't matter. It had done what it was meant to do. Grayson leaned against her. I thought I was saving you, he whispered. You did, she said, but you also saved them. I've arrived just in time to see the tower shut down. Guess that means we're famous now, he said. Whole galaxy knows your faces. Grayson stood slowly. Good. Let them remember. Outside, the hunters retreated. The bounty board shut down the listings. Sierra's name disappeared from every screen, but Grayson's didn't. His bounty was doubled. Human traitor, archive thief, protected a fugitive, dangerous. I'll never be able to go home again, Grayson said. Sierra touched his arm. Then come to mine. He looked at her, surprised, but Leon is gone. She shook her head. Not anymore. They stood side by side as the stars blinked back to life. Somewhere out there, others were watching, others who still believed the truth had been rescued. But the war wasn't over yet. The stars had seen it all. Worlds built and destroyed, empires rise, and silence fall. But tonight, they saw something rare. Not war, not death, a choice. Grayson sat beneath a broken satellite dish. Staring at the vastness above, the air was thinner now, the station trembling as systems shut down one by one. The message was out. Sierra's people had been remembered, but now, he was the price. Across the galaxy, he was no longer a man. He was a symbol. Some called him a hero. Others called him a traitor, and every one of them wanted something from him. Behind him, Sierra walked quietly, her steps lighter now. Since the memory transfer, she had changed, not just stronger, but freer. Her world had a voice again, and it spoke through her every breath. You can't stay here, she said softly. Grayson didn't look at her. I know, he replied. They'll be coming for me, not you now. She knelt beside him. You have another choice? He finally turned to look at her. What choice? Leave it all behind, she said. There's a planet uncharted. Quiet, full of trees and storms. We could start again. No bounties, no war, no history. Grayson chuckled, a mechanic and a memory keeper farming vegetables in the rain. She smiled. Why not? He looked at her, really looked, and he saw it not just in her eyes, but in her soul. Hope. After all the loss, she still believed, but he wasn't sure if he could. That night, while she slept, he walked to the edge. Of the comes grid, there was one more message he could send. One more wave across the stars. He stood before the console. Bleeding and tired, he pressed record. My name is Grayson Hale. I am human. I helped an alien woman because no one else would. She was cold and afraid and lost. She gave me her history, and I gave her my future. He paused, eyes wet, but voice steady. To those still hunting, still hiding the truth, I say this: you can't erase what lives in memory. To those who think kindness is weakness, you've never seen what one kind act can grow into. He looked up at the stars, then said, I may be hunted, I may be forgotten, but I did what was right. And that matters. He pressed send. The message was short but powerful. It echoed across beacons, bouncing from Station 2. Station, within hours, millions would see it. Not just the data, but the human behind it. The man who gave everything for a single moment of warmth. When Grayson returned to Sierra, she was awake. Her hand rested on the memory crystal. Now cracked, but still glowing. "You chose both," she said quietly. He nodded. "I gave them the truth, and I'll take the silence with me." Sierra rose and took his hand. "I want to show you something," she said. They boarded a small ship IVO had left for them. Old, rusty, and barely flying, but it had fuel, and it had freedom. As they left the station, the stars grew brighter, and then, after a long silence, Grayson saw it, a small green planet. Hidden behind rings of dust, clouds drifted slowly, rivers shimmered in soft light. There were no cities, no signals, no names, just peace. Sierra smiled. "This is Leorin now, not the old Leorin, but a new one. Not born of war, but born of a blanket, a choice, a man, and a memory that refused to die." As they landed, the ship's engines powered down one final time. Grayson stepped out, breathed deep, and felt something he hadn't felt in years: belonging. He turned to Sarah and said, "You warmed my bed. But you gave me a reason to wake up." She nodded, eyes glowing softly. "And you gave my people a second life." The stars above watched in silence, and then they moved on, because their work here was done.